Hey everyone, Dave Putz here from JKP Holdings. Alongside me, as always, Mr. Nathan Turner. How are you?
Very good, very good. Trying to stay warm.
Oh my God. Apologies for that. I hit a
There.
button. So I wanted to make sure that we connect for a few minutes. Let us, people who don't know who we are, kind of get to figure out what's going on here. I'm Dave Putz. I've run JKP Holdings for about 10 years plus. I've been buying notes, mortgage real estate backed notes for that many years. And I've been primarily buying bank originated, but we're working into this idea of seller finance notes. We bought a few of them, but we're learning a little bit more about them. And that's where I'm at. Nathan, care to share about yourself?
So I'm Nathan Turner. I started in notes in about 2008, and I was creating notes like a lot of you guys do. And it was in Ohio. So in Ohio, it's a land contract. We were making all these land contracts, and one of my biggest stumbling blocks is like, okay, how do we cash out of these? How do I make money on what I've now created? And took some classes and started meeting some people and learned all about notes and this whole secondary market that I had no idea existed before. And now it's kind of come full circle, it feels like, where now Dave and I are here. We want to help those who are doing what I used to do about creating notes. There is an outlet, and there is a way where you can cash out of these. You can go out and make some more money, and we are more than happy to buy your notes. So we're going to get into all of that stuff today, but that's just kind of a real brief introduction.
Absolutely. We have a lot of people here who don't know who we are. A lot of people are really interested in this topic. And what we found is a huge bridge between the world of note buyers and those who originate notes, the seller finance, owner finance origination world, and us. It's almost like two different bubbles. And what you're going to find out today is that our connection between what you guys do and what we do can be seamless, where it just flies, which is awesome. So I want to make sure you guys tune in, ask questions. I got a few things going on here to kind of track things. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. Hopefully everyone can see us and hear us and all that good stuff. If you have a problem, make a comment in the box and we'll go from there. But we wanted to start off with you guys. We do have some guests, which we'll bring on in a second, but we wanted to just kind of introduce what we do and some of the first things what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, so we, like
This
I said,
it's
it's a big world and it's a big leap. Like I say, I started out with creating notes, which is great, and I love creating notes. I still do it today. A lot of seller finance notes. Mainly, what I buy, and Dave as well, is mortgage notes. So people will go and get a mortgage with a bank, with whoever, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, you name it, whatever bank. The bank will then sell that note. And there's all kinds of reasons why they sell that. But the short story is we will buy those notes. We are not banks. We act as banks do in some cases, but we don't actually own the property. We just own the mortgage attached to the property, or the note attached to the property. And so we collect payments in that way. So that's a very, very brief introduction of what we do. What else you got, Dave?
Yeah. So one of the things we wanted to first share with you guys is that we get the concept of mortgage and note, and what you guys are doing, we get, right? But what we want to share with you guys is why would you sell a note? You know, and what do you need to provide to us, and what you don't need to provide to us to make the numbers work.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things we want to share with you guys is that you guys make huge profit when you create that note. Huge profit. You create a note that you're into a deal for 40 grand, you create $100,000 note. Oh my gosh, it is awesome. Out of thin air, you created money. And we have some great people who are going to be joining us today who are doing just that, as well as those who are doing it on a larger scale. They'll be in the chat, I'm sure. So when you create that note, what you don't realize is that you can cash out everything you're into it for, plus more, which is awesome.
That's what we do. We go around, we buy the loans. Like I said, I do some origination still, and I enjoy doing that. But my main business is buying already originated notes. So somebody else created that note. I'm just buying it as an income stream. That's my core business. So hopefully you can see already how our two businesses really come together.
So we have some cheat sheet here to kind of go down our checklist and make sure we include everything for you guys.
Yeah.
So when you create that note and you create this money out of thin air, do you know you can sell that note to us, the collateral, and just create another note? Amazingly enough, I'm finding a lot of you guys don't know that we exist or where to turn to sell that note. And today we're going to talk about what you can do to turn to sell the note to any of us and what details you need. You can take this money and go buy another property with it. You can do anything you want with it. The one caveat is some of you guys have some assets that are non-performing. Oddly enough, we buy them too. Call them crazy, but we buy them too, right? So
yeah, both Dave and I started out really, after the whole recession happened. So we both started out buying non-performing notes as our main business, where people are not making payments, living in the house. That's what we started buying in 2010. And that's been a major part of our business for the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
So if you've got one of those problem notes, or let's say they're just not paying regular and they're just kind of a thorn in your side, we buy those too. We call those scratch and dent. So we'll buy the scratch and dents, we buy the non-performers, we buy the performers, we buy pretty much anything. So hit us up.
yeah. So when you're looking at buying this kind of stuff, there are two different worlds you play in. We have the seasoned note and buying at the table, at the closing table. You can sell either one of them.
Mhm.
Understand the fact that if it has some seasoning, which just refers to a time period of proven payments, we can buy it for actually a bit more money, right? Than if it's brand new, the risk level is higher. You can also sell part of the loan payments in the first 5 years, or you can collect the whole thing and sell the whole note off and do what you want with it.
Yeah.
One of the caveats we've seen recently, and we actually have two people who are professionals in their space as well, is creating what they call an 80-20 loan. We have 80% on first, 20% on the second, and you can sell the first off and keep the second for payments and sell the 80% of whatever loan you're creating for huge profits for you guys.
And then you still got that 20% second that you can collect some money off that as well. So you still have some cash flow, but then you've got that big chunk that you can go back out and do whatever you're going to do, or whatever personal thing you've got. Maybe you're sending somebody off to college, or maybe you're, renovating your own kitchen, or, whatever it is you've got money needs for. We're here to help fill that gap.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to bring up some information here. What we do have today is a few special guests who are not going to be on video, and then two guests who are actually be on video. If you're familiar with note creation, subject twos, or any of that kind of world, you've probably used an underwriter. Well, we have Max from Call the Underwriter on. He'll be off video, but he's going to be discussing things or answering questions we need to go to him. We also have Sohal, who runs Home Key Servicing. Sohal is a service provider who will act like a landlord for rental properties, but for note space. We're going to get into why a servicer is key for us, as well as for you guys as we go along.
And Sohail that's one service company. There's a bunch out there. We happen to have Sohail here. He can answer all kinds of questions. He'd be a great resource for you. If you move your services over to him, fantastic. That's good for him, good for us. And we'll talk about why that's good for us as well. We'll get into that.
Awesome. So let me switch over here. We should be good. We have some special guests on right now. Let me just make sure we got going on. We have two guests with us right now that we are really excited about, right? We have Justin and Melissa. Hopefully you guys are there, and we all have her unmuted. So what we want to talk about today with you guys is this idea of you guys create notes and create dollars out of thin air, which I think is awesome. Oh, Justin, you're still muted. Melissa, can you share a little bit about how you got started in this idea of creating notes?
Okay, so please forgive me because some of the things that you are going to see are probably going to make you cringe, like the
No.
fact that I use apartments.com.
That's
But
okay.
definitely open to doing more better, as one of my real estate associates say. I've only been in this market for about 2.5 years. So it's been a learning game, right? It's definitely been a learning curve. My first deal was kind of just dropped in my lap, and I feel like God says, okay, you're done doing wholesaling. You're smarter than this. This is what I want you to do, and it just really, after learning this strategy, I was able to get out of the rat race and create millions of dollars in like 18 months. So it was life-changing for me very fast. I do specialize mostly on getting subject twos and then doing an owner finance with those subject twos.
Mhm.
And I get 20% down, and I create a great monthly spread for the most part. And yeah, everybody pays through apartments.com, and it's a good life. However, I do often find myself cash poor, right? So I'm like, now I've gotten a hotel that I'm looking at, and I've created all of these millions in notes. And I wouldn't mind cashing some of them out so I could get some cash to reinvest into this hotel that I'm looking at. So hopefully, learning all of this by the end of this session, I'll be able to do that.
Yeah, awesome.
We may have to spread this out into a couple of webinars because there's a lot of information, but you're in the right place. This is great.
And we want to remind you guys, if you guys do catch this video in your middle of it, this will be on YouTube, will be on the Facebook page, be on our website. But yeah, YouTube channel, all the good stuff is there. Just look up JKP Holdings on YouTube and you'll find this video. So Justin, can you share a little about your background? How did you get involved with notes?
Very, very similar way. I started off wholesaling, and I just really didn't like it. I was cold calling, and it was like offering these 50% deals or 50% for cash, and I just didn't like it. And then I kind of discovered the more creative route that you could take, and just making win-wins for owners and for buyers and sellers, making win-wins for us. I just try to make as many. It seemed like I could help more people that way, and help them faster. There was, I didn't have to raise as much capital, and a lot of times when I did raise the capital, I was able to, very, very similar to what Melissa was saying, buying subject to, and then if I had to come out of pocket any cash, I just turn around and get that cash back from an owner finance buyer. A lot of times, but sometimes, we've flipped a couple of houses that we just, that we couldn't find buyers for, and we just ended up owner financing them. And then, we were like, well, we can sell it. We've heard that you can sell notes. So, eventually, and I was, earlier this week, I actually sold my first note. So I've been through the process. But as soon as I opened up that can of worms, it was like, holy cow, there's so much more to this than I even knew.
Yeah. And you know what? I went through the exact same thing. I started creating these notes in 2008 in kind of all over Midwest, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan. And it was like, okay, there's got to be a way to cash out of these. And I'd heard rumors, I'd heard these stories about people that buy notes. And I went to a training seminar in 2009, and it just blew my mind. Like, it just all this huge secondary market that I didn't know existed. I went to a conference later that year down in Louisiana, and everybody's, talking about this thing that I just barely learned about. And yeah, it's real, and it's a very vibrant market. We'll say.
Yeah, my first one of my first deals, I actually traded equity in two houses for an owner finance house on the back end. Yeah. And so I had all this equity sitting there that I ended up selling and making all my money in the front end because I sold the other two houses. Right. But then I still had this other one sitting there, and I was like, well, that's all my money that's tied up still sitting there.
Yeah.
And that ended up being the one that I finally sold. And I was like, oh, well, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But there was just some intricacies that I had to learn and kind of get punched in the mouth and keep on rolling with.
Okay. Awesome.
So we want to get into a little bit more of the details of this stuff to make sure that those watching, you guys as well, what we're talking about here. So what people get interchange words a lot of times, right? So there's this thing called land contract, contract for deed. We also have a lease option. We also have, a deed of trust, all these different words that mean different things, but more generally mean the same thing,
Yeah.
right? If I say, listen, is it a mortgage or land contract, you may say, why does it matter?